Hi, welcome to topic number 4, sampling method. So in this lecture video, we're going to talk about the different types of sampling methods that we can have when it comes to collecting data. All right, so random sampling. Random sampling is a process of using chance to select from the population to be in the sample, okay? So random sampling is the best, okay? It's actually the best. Why? Because random sampling avoid being biased. Okay, so when we collect data, we got to avoid being biased. Okay, so that's why random sampling is actually the way how we supposed to sample. Okay, so there are different methods. Okay, as it come to sampling, but the random sampling is one of the methods. All right, so a sample size n from a population size calculator n. So here I'm trying to show you some of the notation we will be using. Lowercase n is a sample size, calculator n is a population size. A sample size n from a population size, calculator n, is obtained through simple random sampling. Simple random sampling means if every possible sample size n has an equal likely chance of occurring. Simple random sampling means if every possible sample size has an equal likely chance of occurring. Okay, that's the key part. So simple random sample, okay, why it is random, okay, because every sample size has an equal likely chance of occurring. All right, the data that is collected using this method is called a simple random sample. All right, simple random sample. If I use a technique of simple random sampling. Sampling without replacement and sample with replacement are two words we will start using more often. Sample without replacement means if once an object is selected, it will be removed from the population. With the replacement means once an object is selected, it will actually be put back into the population. So what is a big deal about with replacement or without replacement when we do the sampling? Well, it does change the probability of occurring. So when we begin to talk about probabilities, okay, then the wording sampling with or without replacement will actually, you'll begin to hear more of that. So it actually affects the probability of occurring, okay, whether the sample is with replacement or without replacement. Another sampling method is called a stratified sample or stratified sampling. Stratified sampling is obtained by separating the population into non-overlapping group. Okay, so right here in the picture, you can see here I divided into 4 non-overlapping group. And we're gonna select randomly from each group. Okay, stratified sample is obtained. First thing, we gotta separate our entire population into non-overlapping groups. And then we're gonna randomly select from each group. Okay, each group will be selected randomly. A cluster sample, okay, stratified and cluster can get kind of confusing. Cluster sample is obtained by selecting all the individuals within a randomly selected group. So in a picture, again, I divide my entire population into non-overlapping group. Okay, so cluster sample is actually selecting every individual from the group, but the group itself is actually randomly selected. Okay, so stratify is randomly select from each group. Okay, so many people from each group. Cluster sample is we actually randomly select the group. Okay, and we actually collect the data from everyone in that selected group. Everyone in that group, got to be surveyed or take sample of. Okay, stratify is randomly select in the, randomly select from all the group. Okay, so that's the big difference. One of them is randomly select the group and then sample everybody in that group. Stratified is randomly selecting so many from every group that we actually created as a non-overlapping groups. All right, a systematic sample is obtained by selecting every so many individual from the population, every fourth, every sixth. Okay, so things like assembly line. Okay, you can think of, every so many of them, every so many product coming out of assembly line, they will actually collect the sample. That would be called the systematic. All right, another one is convenient sample. Okay, convenient sample is a sample in which individuals are easily obtained and not based on randomness. Okay, so other three, the systematic, cluster, and stratify, is also random sampling. Okay, so random sampling is the overall concept, it's an overall sampling. So under the random sampling, we have simple random sampling, we have stratified, we have cluster, and we have systematic. Okay, so let's try some examples. Okay, so you got to read these very carefully. A study is done to determine the average tuition at San Jose State undergrad students pay per semester. Determine the type of sampling method is used. Okay, so a sample of 100 undergrad students at this San Jose State is taken by organizing the student's name, classify them as freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and then selecting 25 students from each. Select 25 students from each. So think about this. I have 4 non-overlapping group. Okay. I'm only gonna take a sample. So the 100 is called confusing. The 100 is a total number of sample I'm going to get. So out of all the freshmen, sophomore, junior, and seniors, okay, I'm gonna select 25. I'm gonna randomly select 25 of them. Okay, so that will be an example of stratify simply. Because I'm only selecting 25 from each group. So there can be more than 25 freshmen, sophomore, junior, and senior. Okay, but I'm only gonna selecting 25 randomly from each group. All right, let's try another scenario. All right, same thing. Okay, tuition at San Jose State. A random number generator is used to select a student from the alphabetical listing of all undergraduate students in the fall semester. Starting with that student, okay, whatever that student is, every 50th student chosen until 75 are included. So every so many of them, that'll be the example of systematic. Okay. Every 50 students, okay, is gonna be my sample. I will continue to do that until I have 75 students in the sample. All right, so again, San Jose State undergraduate students paying per semester. So check out this one. Of the freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year are numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So let's try that. Freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, random are actually being numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. A random number generator is used to pick 2 of those years. All the students in those 2 are in the sample. See, that's the key. Randomly cluster is randomly selecting the group. Okay, but we're gonna survey, we're gonna collecting data from everyone in that group. So this example is a classic example of clustered, because once if the random generator is selecting this group in this group, then we will sample every one of those in the group. All students in those 2 years are in the sample. So that's a cluster sampling. So if you go back to stratified, right? If you go back to stratified example, okay, we have 4 non-overlapping group. In each group, I'm gonna select 25 students. So I'm gonna so in my sample, I will have all 4 groups. Okay, I'm selecting every, I'm gonna obtain samples from, randomly from every group. A cluster is randomly select the group and then sample everyone in that group. A little bit different. All right. Let's try another one. So again, San Jose State undergrad, and an administrative assistant is asked to stand in front of the library one Wednesday and ask first 100 undergraduate students that he or she encounters what they pay for tuition that fall. Those 100 students that this administrative assistant encounters are in the sample. Okay, so this is a convenience. You're just standing right there in front of the library and ask 100 students. Okay, so that's a convenience sampling. So it's not the not the greatest way of doing sample. Okay, if you think about all the surveys done from calling, people calling into a radio station, things like that, those are convenience sampling. All right. So on the homework, question number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These are just definition and concept from the lecture handouts. Question number 6, okay. Read a scenario 6, 7, 8. Read these 3 scenarios carefully and choose. These are multiple choice questions, and choose which sampling method is being used. So just quickly, in this topic, we talk about the different types of random sampling. Okay, but the best one is actually called this is actually called the simple random sampling, or random sampling. So if you look at my choices here, okay, my first choice is always simple random sampling. So these choices are basically listing the 5 types of sampling methods that's commonly used. But the simple random sampling is actually the best, the best methods. So as we talk about, as we go into other topic, you'll begin to hear the wording, random sampling, things like that. Okay, all right, so that will conclude this lecture video. Thank you for watching.